Perfect.
Good morning, everybody. This is Let's Talk ICT on testing websites with assistive technology. Today's session is going to be on using VoiceOver to test website connections. And happy to introduce our presenter today is Chad Rohr. He is an AT specialist with the Rehab Services for the Blind. He's also the local security officer for the Rehab Services for the Blind. And so I am going to turn it over to you, Chad.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. And so, like Eileen mentioned, we're talking about voiceover and testing um, that for accessibility and usability. And the main part of our presentation today is a video that I recorded previously using voiceover on an iPad. And I went through both the before and after page, and that way you could see and hear what VoiceOver is reading for the different pages and how it may sound whenever you get the iPads from the kits. So we can.
Thanks. And this is Eileen. And for those that have not joined a session, but this one, we've had a few previously. What we are talking about is we have an accessibility kit that we've put together with main device being a laptop with a variety of software and devices connected and an iPad that will use VoiceOver so that individuals that have website responsibilities, starting with state employees, can use these. They can borrow them from our ETC program for up to 5 weeks to test any websites that they're developing. And so today we're focusing on how to use the VoiceOver aspect of it. And Chad, are we ready to go to the video?
I do believe so. I mean, I didn't have anything else to add, so I think we are good to start the video.
Great, thank you.
A screenshot of a weather.
This is a demonstration of using VoiceOver on the iPad. VoiceOver is a screen reader that is built in to all iPads and reads everything on the screen. The VoiceOver indicator should be a black line around whatever we are focused on.
Settings.
So for instance,
Double tap to open.
It should be a black line around settings currently. What we're going to do first is make sure that the iPad is set up the correct way that it should be. So we're going to go into settings.
Settings.
And then we're going to go to accessibility.
No sounds. No Bluetooth. Air. Sound. Focus. Screen time. Selected. General. Button.
And all I'm doing is just moving my finger around the screen. There is 2 ways that you can navigate using VoiceOver. One is swiping either left, right, up, or down, and that will take you either forward or backward, or you can explore the touchscreen by just using one finger. So that's exploring the touchscreen is what I'm doing currently.
Screen time. Notification. Bluetooth. No. Screen. Select. Control set. Selected. General. Display it. Home screen. Accessibility. Hearing. Accessibility. Heading.
So in the settings and under accessibility, there is a VoiceOver option.
Vision. Heading. VoiceOver. On.
And
button.
That's where you would go
accessibility.
to.
Back button.
That's where you would go to make sure that VoiceOver is turned on.
Double tap voiceover practice. VoiceOver. Heading. VoiceOver. Switch button. On.
That switch right there is how you'd make sure that it was turned on. One other thing that you might want to make sure that is set up on the iPad is in the main accessibility screen.
Voice accessibility.
all the way down at the bottom, there is a
Subtitles, light, speech, head, light, guide, Siri, assistive app, perhaps, accessibility shortcut, voiceover, button.
it says accessibility shortcut. And what that is with this iPad, I can press the home button 3 times and it will turn off and turn on VoiceOver. That way you don't get stuck trying to use VoiceOver on the iPad.
Clock, 3:24 p.m. Actions available. A screenshot of a weather forecast. Possible text. Cupertino,
And
87 degrees.
What that is doing right there is built in on the iPad or any iPhone. It can do image description. So VoiceOver was, while I was reading my notes, VoiceOver was reading what it was focused on, which is
Clock, 3 notes. Clock, 3:24
the
p.m.
clock app in the top left
Actions
corner.
available. A screenshot of a weather forecast. Possible text. Cupertino, 87 degrees 4 p.m. 5 p.m.
So what we have, or what we're going to do today, is look at the two different web pages, one before the accessibility and one after the accessibility was taken in mind. So I have created home screen icons. So we're going to go
Camera. Testing a website. Podcast. Testing a website for accessibility before MOAD.
So we're going to go to that
Double
one.
tap to open.
And when using VoiceOver, it gave you the hint and it said double tap to open. So instead of just touching the screen wherever you want, whatever you want to select, you have to highlight whatever you want to select. So the VoiceOver indicator is focused on that. And then I double tap with one finger to open that specific thing I want to.
Safari. Selected. Loading. Submit. Screen recording in. Selected. Address. at.mo.gov. Secure. Button.
So that up there is the address bar, and that's how I would know what page I was focused on, or if I wanted to go to a different page, that's how I would be able to choose the page that I wanted to go to. And just like with just like the web page has the web page has headings on it, and that is one way that you can navigate by, and that it just shows the different parts of the page. So one way you can navigate with VoiceOver is you use the rotor and you take 2 fingers and twist them like you're twisting the dial of a clock. And one of the options on the rotor is heading. So I'm going to do that gesture now.
Links. Form controls. 39 form controls.
And so these are just different options that I can either swipe up to go to the previous one or swipe down to go to the next one.
Tables.
And we'll get to the table here in a minute.
Characters. Words. Lines. Speaking rate. Containers.
So again, these are just different options on the rotor. I'm trying to get to headings.
Headings.
So
5 headings.
that just told me there's 5 headings on the page. So to go to the next one, I swipe down with one finger.
Testing a website for accessibility before. Heading level 1.
So that is like the main title of the page. And so it said heading level 1, which generally there's only one heading level 1.
Visuals that move. Heading level 6.
So I mean, that's another part of the page. And again, this is all on the before accessibility page.
Audio. Heading level 6. Connect. Heading level 2. Contact. Heading level 2.
So those are just the different headings available. So I'm going to go back up to the previous heading.
Connect. Audio. Visual. Testing a heading not found.
So that told me heading not found because that's the first one. And then what I can do is I can swipe to the right and it'll read me the next thing that's on the page.
Disclaimer. This page is created with intention to be an inaccessible page for educational purposes. It will be used by testers for a series on website accessibility. This is one of 3 pages developed by a state team to offer education on testing with assistive technology. There is a companion page to this before page. The more accessible version or the after page link.
And so that I just swipe to the right, and that's the next link. And then I'm going to swipe to the right again, and it's going to tell us more information.
We also offer an At testing, link. Guide to complete the training resources. Page sections.
So this, if I wanted to go by each option on the, or each different thing on the page, I would swipe to the right. But again, since I wanted to skip around, that's when I would use the headings.
Visuals that move. Heading left. Go to slide 1, button.
So this is, I think, where the slideshow is.
Go to slide 2, button.
And so there's
Go to
these are the
slide
different
3,
ones available.
button. Go to slide 4. Previous slide, button. Next slide, button. Images that move at a fast rate can cause a flash. A flash at certain speeds or sizes can cause a physical reaction such as a seizure or migraine.
Okay, so one thing that is important when considering accessibility is how tables are set up. And so with VoiceOver on, I can use the rotor
Links.
and go
70.
and go to table,
Form control. Tables. 1 table.
and that tells me that there's one table on the page. So I'm going to swipe down to see if it's below where I'm at on the page.
Respondent category. Row 1. Column 1. Table start. 7 rows, 3 columns.
So that told me 7 rows, 3 columns. So I kind of know how the table is laid out. And there's an option with VoiceOver you can navigate by row. So I'm going to use the rotor again.
Form control. Links. Headings. Container. Speaking rate. Lines. Words. Character. Rows.
So now VoiceOver changes a little bit. So if I swipe to the right, it goes to the next cell to the right. And if I swipe down, it'll go to the next cell down below where I am. Same thing with left and up. So that's an easier way to navigate a table.
Blindness. Row 2. What? 6.8%. Motor. Row 6. Column 1.
And it may have just jumped around a little bit because my finger accidentally touched the screen. And that unfortunately happens sometimes.
Edit.
So
Tables. Form.
Let me-
Table. Respondent cat. Form control. Table. Edit. Rows. Caret. Rows. Blindness. Low vision. 306. Column 2.
so with this table,
19.9%.
I mean,
Column 3.
you can kind of figure out what you're doing because you can go to the left to find that left column.
3. Low vision / visually impaired. Column 1.
And then you can go to the right.
306. Column 2.
But I really don't know what that 306 has anything to do with. So that's why having column headers and row headers on your table is very important. So that way, whenever I'm trying, or I or you are trying to navigate with the screen reader, you have context to the numbers that you're hearing. So next, what we're going to do is look at the form a little bit. So another way you can use the VoiceOver rotor, there's an option that says forms, I believe. So I'm going to use the rotor with 2 fingers twisting.
Characters, words, lines, speaking rate, containers, headings, links, form controls, 42 form controls.
So that tells me there's 42 form controls. So I'm going to swipe down because I think the form is below where we're at.
First name, text field.
So
Double tap to edit.
and that just tells us, it says double tap to edit. So if I wanted to start filling this out,
Insertion point at end.
so then the keyboard comes up, and how the keyboard works with VoiceOver, there's a couple of different ways you can type. The way that it's set up currently is you find the letter
Cap C. Cap C.
and it types that letter. And I think I changed that in the settings. The way that it's set up by default is that you would find the letter, lift your finger, and then double tap to insert that letter. But I changed it to, it's called touch typing. So when I find the letter
Y. H.
and
Hotel.
then I lift my finger
H.
and it automatically types that letter.
Q. Shift. A. A. D. D.
So I typed my name.
Explore at. Link. Go to slide 1. Form back. Forward. Dimmed. But resources. Go to slide 1.
Sometimes this happens. It kind of jumps around a little bit. So I'm going to try to get back to where I was at on the form.
Go to previous next slide. First name. Address. First name. Address. Form start.
So with this being the before page, it's like the form isn't set up to where it's in the order that it should be, because normally it's like first name, last name, and then the address. So I'll just swipe to the right here.
Address line 1, text field.
So then this is where I would type.
Double tap to edit.
This is where I would type the address. And again, once I type that, I could swipe to the right.
Address line 1. Address line 2, text field. Double tap to edit.
And then I could just keep
line
swiping
2.
to the right, and I would fill out each one of these as I go, but I won't bore everybody with trying to fill it out. Again, it just the same type of thing where that you double tap in the edit field and it brings that keyboard up, and then you type what you want to type and then go to the next form field. So again, this is all on the before page. So now I'm going to show you the after page. So I just press the home button.
3:34 p.m. App Store. Testing a website for accessibility after MOAT.
So I'm
Double tap to
on
open.
that.
Safari. Testing a website for accessibility. Close.
And also, those were the names of the icons. That's because I created them. You can add them to the home screen in Safari. There's an option to do that. So I went ahead and did that, so I didn't have to type them all out. So
Services. Link.
this is
Service snapshot.
this is the after page. So I can do kind of like I did before.
Tables. Form links. Headings. 14. Testing a website for accessibility. Contact us.
So
link. List.
Here, let me redo this because I started moving before it. So let me.
Containers. Headings. 14 headings.
So you hear how this one has 14 headings and the other one only had 5. So that just makes navigation so much easier, that you can get to the different options a lot easier versus the bigger chunks of the page. It just, with VoiceOver on, it just means more swiping or more exploring.
Testing a website for accessibility after. Heading level 1. Disclaimer. This is one of 3 pages developed by a
and all I did there is I tapped 2 fingers on the screen to pause VoiceOver, and I can tap 2 fingers again.
Team to offer education on testing websites with assistive technology. There is a companion page to this named after page. The intentionally inaccessible version is named.
So, and again, with that 2-finger single tap, that just pauses what VoiceOver is saying. So what we'll do now is go to the table and show you how the accessible version makes it way easier to navigate. So I'm going to use my rotor and get to tables.
Links. Form control. Tables. 1 table. Testing a website for accessibility. Respondent category. Row header. Column header. Row 1. Column 1. Table start. 7 rows 3 columns.
And now I'm going to use my rotor again to where it says rows.
Form control. Table. Edit. Rows.
And now I can from here I can swipe either down or to the right. But then once I get further into the table, I can go any direction and it'll read me that information.
Blindness. Row 2. Number of respondents. 1,179. Column 2.
So that it read the number of respondents, so I have more context to what that number is for. It makes it a lot easier to navigate.
Percentage of respondents. 76.6%. Column 3.
Again, more context to what that is, and if I swipe down, I'll go to the next row in the list, and it should read me what that row specifically is.
19.9%. Row 3.
Maybe not. Let me.
Number of respondent. Respondent category. Low vision / visually impaired. Column 1.
So I did have to get back over there. I know with my VoiceOver I know with my screen reader on my computer, sometimes it'll read both of those, the column header and the row header, but this one did not.
Number of respondents. 306. Column 80. Row 4. Respondent category. Cognitive or learning. Column 1. Number of respondents. 80. Column 2.
So it just makes navigating this table way easier when using VoiceOver with the proper column headers and row headers. So now let's go down to the form. So I'm going to use the rotor again.
Edit. Tables. Form controls. 24 form controls.
And I'm going to swipe down because I believe it should be below where I'm at.
Name. First. Type first name. Text field.
And that said, type
Double
first
tap
name.
to edit.
So I'll double tap.
Insertion point at end. Cap S. Cap X. Cap C. Cap C. G. H. H. Q. A. D. 1.000. Name. First. Chad. First. Last. Type last name. Text field.
And it's nice with this.
Double tap to edit.
Now that we're in the accessible version, or the after version, it seems to be in the correct order. So it's first name, then last name versus first name, address, a bunch of other information, and then last name. So it's all in order now. It makes a lot, it's more logically set up.
For last, type last name, text, insertion, paste, cap W, cap E, cap R, O, H, A, T, R,
One thing
roar.
One thing that you can do when using VoiceOver, so right above, I believe, right above the keyboard.
T is date / is paste but redo undo selected closed select undo repay is
Maybe not. Sorry. Whenever sometimes with forms there's like a next and a previous button right above the keyboard. This one must, I don't know if it's the iPad that's not set up that way or what, but what that'll do is that'll take you to the next available form field and automatically put you in the form field, and it should read you the name of the form field. So it just makes filling it out a lot easier.
Is name last text field is editing
So
roar
I can
insertion point last
swipe to the
format
right.
date / time form start.
So this is the date and time, and I believe on the before page it was a picture, and we can actually look at that real quick.
Home. Podcasts. Testing a website for accessibility before MO at Safari. Address. Submit tables. Form go previous next slot. First name. Address. City.
And I'm just swiping with one finger.
State. Zip code. Last name. Text. Phone. Selected country. United States +1. Combo. Phone. 2. Explain what assistive technology you are needing. Multi-line text field. Do you have internet access? Yes. Rate. No. Rate. Name. Forms. First. Text. First. Last. Date / time. Pick today's date on the calendar shown. Text field. Read only.
So with this,
Double tap to edit.
the before form, it has a calendar that you visually look at and you pick the correct one. And so
Are you seeking other?
with VoiceOver, I am unable to pick that specific date that I want to. But if we go back to the after version,
Home. Books. Settings. Testing a website for accessibility after MO app. Safari. Guide. Close. Add test tables. Form name last. Type last. Date / month. Date / time. Form start. Month. Pop-up button.
so with this one,
Double tap to active.
I would double tap,
Date / time. Month. Pop-up button.
and then from there I can swipe to the
Double
right.
tap to activate.
I can swipe to the right to the different options.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, button.
So let's just say, let's do the 6th.
Thank you for your interest in date / time, year, day, dd, month, 6, pop-up button.
Okay, so that's the month.
Double
So we'll
tap.
actually go to 9 to make sure.
1, 2, 3, 7, 8, button, 9, button.
Because I'm
Name,
recording this
form
in
start.
September.
Date / time, year, day, dd, month, 9,
I just
pop-up button.
Want to verify that it's correct.
Double tap to
Correct month.
day, dd, pop-up button. Double tap to activate the picker.
And I should have said this before. The nice thing about VoiceOver when it's on from the beginning, the hints, VoiceOver hints are turned on. So if you focus on something and just wait a little bit, it'll tell you
Year,
like
YI,
for instance,
day, DD, pop-up button. Double tap to activate the picker.
it told me to double tap to activate the picker. So then I would double tap with one finger.
Date/time, day, DD, pop-up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, button. Thank you for your interest in Missouri Assistive Tech. Name, last, date/time, year, YI, year, YI.
And sometimes whenever with pickers like that, and this is just a quirk with VoiceOver, your focus kind of jumps around, and that actually happens even sometimes when you're swiping around. It just kind of jumps. So sometimes it takes a little bit to get back to where you were, but that's just with practice. Will definitely make it little bit easier.
And year, YI, pop-up button, date/time, year, YI, pop-up, 2025, 2024, button.
And then I'll double tap.
Services, link, date/time, year, 2024.
So that's how you would fill out the date on these, and those are like, I think they're called pop-ups.
Day 6, pop-up button.
Yeah, at least VoiceOver calls it a pop-up button. So I'm going to swipe to the right.
Year, 2000, enter today's date, form end. Address, form start. Address line 1, type.
I'm just going to swipe through all this information.
Address line 1, address line 2, address line 2. City, type city name, text field, city.
And the nice thing with VoiceOver, I'm guessing you probably noticed, is you can keep swiping or keep moving the VoiceOver cursor, and it kind of interrupts itself and moves on to the next thing, so you don't have to wait till it finishes every single time.
State, state. Zip code, type the zip code, text field. Zip code, form end. Phone. Selected country, United States +1, combo box, phone, type area code and phone number, text field. Explain what assistive technology you are needing. You reached out to us about adaptive equipment. Tell us about that. Multi-line text field. Do you have internet access at home? Form start. Yes, radio button, unchecked. No, radio button, unchecked. Are you seeking other programs and services at Mode? Select all of the programs of interest below. Form start.
And one other quirk with VoiceOver is if there are like initials or like MOAT or anything like that, it reads it all as like one word. So that's one thing that can be quirky about it.
TAP phone, checkbox, unchecked,
So these
required.
are the different programs
Invalid data.
that you could check.
TAP, etc. Show me loans, checkbox, etc. Checkbox, unchecked.
And one other thing with VoiceOver is if there are letters together that it thinks are a word, so like that is ETC, and it thinks that means etc., but in this case it does not.
Show me loans, checkbox, unchecked. At reutilization, checkbox, unchecked. At conference, checkbox, unchecked. CAPTCHA. 12. Star. 7.
So that would be the accessible version of a CAPTCHA. Sometimes with CAPTCHAs, they say how many stop signs or how many cars or anything like that. And so it's not really accessible. And sometimes they have audio versions, which can be very hard to hear, but that's another way that can be done. But with this one, it's a math problem.
Star 12. Star 7.
So I'm assuming it's 12 times 7.
Equals. CAPTCHA. Description. 12 star 7 equals. Type sum of formula. Text field. Required.
Okay, so that told me
Invalid data.
I would type some of the formula. So I don't know if I would type the same thing or the answer. But then we're going to keep going.
Next page. Button.
So then that's where we would go to get to like the next page or like finishing to submit the form.
Indefinite time. Video playback. Elapsed time. 0 seconds.
So this
Double
is
tap to play or pause. Actions available.
this is the video that's down near the bottom,
More. Pop-up button. Play button.
and there's a play button. And this version is the after, so you would be able to hear the audio description.
Audio captions and player controls. Heading level 3. Sharing a video through a video player platform that has access to edit. Make sure player control.
And this concludes the demonstration.
Home. Screen recording in control center. Services.
All right, Chad, we'll turn it back over to you and Kyle.
All right. Sorry, I had to get unmuted. So that was the main demonstration of using VoiceOver on the iPad, and clearly didn't go over everything of using VoiceOver, but kind of the basics of how it works. Kyle, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, it's a good demo, Chad.
Thank you.
The only thing I would add, and you sort of mentioned this, but when you're, especially with talking with people that haven't used VoiceOver very much or at all, you mentioned the double tapping, but you can double tap anywhere on the screen. Once VoiceOver has selected and the indicators on some item you want to tap on or you want to select, and the focus is there, all you have to do is double tap anywhere on the screen. It doesn't have to be on that exact icon or item you're activating. So just double tap anywhere on the screen. But that's the only thing I would add to all that.
All right, Eileen, did you want to show the next slide?
Sure,
And
I'd be happy to.
okay, and I think you and then Lainey, we're gonna talk about what excuse me, what was covered.
Yeah, actually, and then so as we walk through some of these, I'd like to challenge you as a group that's joined us of looking at, the poor concept. So when we think of this device testing assistive technology, if you would put in the chat, which one of the poor concepts do you think that this would be a good match for? Is it perceivable, operable, understandable, or robust? And I'll give you guys a minute to make a comment in the chat. Ian says, oh, go ahead, Brenda.
If you can see it now, that's fine. You can read it. Yeah, Ian says operable. Anyone else?
And just having
Amy
gray
said that
boxes over the slide.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then the chat is all yours, Brenda. That's what was open.
Yeah, it looks like the gray box disappeared.
Yeah, close the chat. So part of Wi-Fi challenges here.
Yes. If everyone's seeing the full screen now. Amy said that there was a gray bar over the bottom throughout. It was blocking part of the think captioning. Now there's another box at the very bottom of the best practice screen. And I know I'm seeing one on the right.
Yeah, that is the control bar for the host, sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, those are some challenges. I think this device too, robust, it is definitely a category that as the VoiceOver and the devices, change with technical abilities. The website should consider what they're capable of doing. And you can hear from Chad's demonstration that there's a lot of different ways to use VoiceOver. And so if you're aware of that, that can help you with your design. Any other ideas in the chat for whether it's a P, O, U, or R? Brenda, are there any more comments in the chat?
Sounded like Amy said operable and robust on, I think she said resizing.
Yes, thank you. I agree. So you guys are doing your homework well. And is there one other comment that's come up?
That was the last one that Jaws read to me. There could
Yeah,
have been one, but
yeah, that there aren't any others. I apologize. I was muted when I was talking a minute ago.
Technology is so much fun. Thank you both. I appreciate you helping me with that piece. All right, well, I'd like to turn it over to Lainey. Our last slide here is talking about best practices when you're designing your website, developing it, what to consider for screen readers like VoiceOver.
Yes, this is Lainey. So these considerations are for people who do testing, for application developers, for, anybody in that realm. It may be, some of it may apply to our developers who build sites. Some of it may end up applying to content, etc. But these are just some best practices that kind of follow with what Chad was showing us today. And, first off, to test orientation using a mobile device, you can use your browser's developer tools. And they're, all the main, known browsers have a developer tools option. And they typically have something called a device emulation. And that device emulation allows you to test things out for mobile, etc. And then you can use the rotate option to test that out. So that's a nice feature. Become knowledgeable and understand the difference between clicking and tapping. A mouse click allows for a very tight precision of where that you're interacting with the page, whereas a tap, etc., is what we call a larger, more coarse precision. And that's why there's some of the examples here where you need a larger tap target to allow for the different types of technology that will interact with the page. So, for example, a finger tap requires a larger text area, like I was mentioning. Reflow, kind of like, seeing that the page is responsive, can be tested with a fully expanded browser window while using the browser zoom option and zooming up to 400%. So just kind of like some testing tips there. Studies show that users scan content. That's probably not a surprise by anybody, looking at headings and things. So, and they aren't just reading detail by detail. Make sure headings and labels are clear, but they are not, keeping them concise enough for easy scanning. And for error identification or status messages, especially in like interactive forms, things like that, wrapping error messages into a container with something called role equals alert is one of the most effective ways for people to use to be able to display errors and to consistently have those error messages come to the forefront and be read so that they get the right focus so that the person can, properly know what's going on the page at that moment, whether I miss some required fields, etc. And so that's kind of a developer tip there. And that covers that.
Thank you, Lainey. Let's open it up for questions. Does anybody have questions for Chad and Kyle on the use of VoiceOver for testing?
This is Brenda, and I have a question for the attendees. Has everyone tried the different hand gestures for VoiceOver at least a little bit? Does everyone have a basic knowledge of those? I know Chad described them really well, but I was wondering specifically about the rotor, if everyone had tried that or needed Chad to describe that a little more.
And that probably is one of the most
We have a question on the accessibility shortcut. What if you're using an iPhone without a home button? What does that shortcut do?
so what it uses is the side button, or what some people call like the lock button. So you would triple tap that side button here. I think I can, you might be able to see my phone. So this button right here on the side, you press that 3 times, and that's would do the same thing as pressing the home button 3 times. It would turn off or turn on whatever you have set in that accessibility shortcut.
Yes, and I'll add to that as well. Some iPads have that quote unquote side button or power button on the top. So just to
Sure.
be aware, on iPads, it might be a different location. And I also wanted to add, someone had told me on the rotor, it's like twisting a water bottle cap off, if that helps anyone.
Yes, a lot of, again, I'm not sure if you guys can see, but a lot of times what I'll do is take 2 fingers, so like my index and middle finger, and twist, yeah, like twisting a water bottle cap or like a dial on a radio. So one finger would go up, one
Yes.
finger would go down. And each time you do one of those little motion, that moves you to the next item on the rotor. And you can go both to the left and then to the right, which may be backward for what you guys were saying, but either direction you can go along the rotor.
Um, one thing to add too is, um, I don't know if this would be updated to iOS 18 yet, but even in previous versions of iOS, there is a voiceover gesture help area where if you do any voiceover gestures, it will say what those gestures do. Um, and you can get into that under the accessibility settings under the voiceover. There's a voiceover help area. You can do that. But then also in iOS 18, they added a voiceover tutorial. So it will teach you how to do some of those, all the different voiceover gestures. So you can go in there and learn how to do all of them. But
Yeah,
that's not
thanks
until
for
iOS
adding that.
18.
Yes, yes, thanks for adding that, Kyle, because that is wonderful to have that actual tutorial
Yeah.
and not just a practice. I know
Yeah.
that's helped a lot of individuals in our programs that utilize the iOS.
Oh, and the other thing I was going to add to with the shortcut is Chad just had a voiceover selected in there, but if for some reason you want to use multiple accessibility options, if you double or if you triple tap either your home button or the side button to bring up that shortcut, if you have multiple things selected, like invert colors, which turns the screen white text on black background, and voiceover and zoom and whatever options you want, it'll bring up a menu to choose from whichever ones you want. So you can select multiple options in there.
And you can also use Siri to turn off or on VoiceOver if
Yes, that is true too.
you ever do get stuck. That's a good escape route.
Yep.
Thank you, guys. And I'm going to jump in here too and share the page for this project. It's the testing website for accessibility. If you can see the screen, if you could let me know in the chat. And Brenda, you're going to be my eyes and ears for me. Can
Amy
you?
said they
Yes.
can see the website.
They
Yes.
can. Okay, thank
Yes.
you. All right, so on this site, if you scroll down to the bottom, this is the WCAG related page for our before and afters. We have all of the device user guides attached, and all the way down here at the bottom, underneath robust, we have resources for you, checklists, but here are the testing AT guides. And we have the one from the NVDA session, which Kyle has put together for us, the iPad VoiceOver, which Chad and Brenda worked on, that's all we've done. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have one other one below. There we go. The Head Mouse Nano Jelly Bean switch that Brenda and I put together. And so if you've attended those sessions, make sure you take a look at those. I'm going to copy this URL and stick it in the chat.